I think one of the things that stops people from decluttering is they think, oh, I should sell that. That could be valuable. I could get some money for that. Or even worse, I paid good money for that. And then they think I should sell this, but they feel like that's a lot of work. And so they just stay stuck. That is what we're going to be talking about in today's episode number 65 of the Decluttering Club Podcast. You are listening to the Decluttering Club Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they have energy for what matters most. So if you've ever kind of thought to yourself, oh, I should sell that, or I really could use the money, I can't just let that go, we're going to talk about that because there is no reason that this question should stop you in your tracks. And there are lots of reasons why you may want to sell something instead of just giving it away or putting it in the trash or whatever. And there's lots of reasons why you may not want to sell it. So we're going to dive into all of that because I really don't want this to be an obstacle that prevents you from decluttering. Either way, this stuff should leave your house. If you have decided it's not serving you, we got to let it go. We got to let it go because less stuff and more life is on the line here. And letting things sit around because we can't decide or because we're stuck or because we think we should sell something, but we don't really want to, or it feels like a lot of work. We need to get rid of those obstacles because your life is on the line here. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I have sold lots of things. I love selling things. Selling your clutter is an amazing way to gain some extra cash, maybe get rid of some stuff. Sometimes if you know you can sell something, or if you do sell something, it makes you feel that much better about letting it go. But also sometimes the opposite is true. So I have some ways for you to think about it and how to decide if you do want to sell something or not. And then we're going to talk about, the work that goes into selling. Now we do have a whole product surrounding this. It's called Cash In, 5 easy ways to sell your clutter for cash. If you want to purchase that, we are going to include the link in the show notes. And if you want to dive in and get a really thorough understanding and a thorough guide to selling your clutter for cash, you're going to want to pick that up. But I'm going to give you some pointers and some ways to start out here. How much could I potentially get for this item? And is it worth my time? This is the number one thing I want you to think about. And everybody is going to have their own threshold. Some of you might think, okay, I'm going to sell anything that I can get $20 or more, and I can do it in an hour or less. Others of you are like, I'm never selling anything ever. It's just not worth my time, and I don't have stuff that I think is worth that much. And others of you are going to be like, oh, I love selling. Selling is super fun. We used to have a woman in our membership. Her name was Jeannie, and she could sell anything, and she loved it. And she kind of felt like it was a game. So there's no wrong way to do this. And it's really important that you hear me when I say that, because I think sometimes we think, I don't want to throw this away or let it go because I need the money and I put money into it. Well, that is a whole separate topic. Just because you put money into something does not mean that you're automatically going to get the money back out. It does not work that way. It's like, think about a new car. If you buy a brand new car, the moment you drive it off the lot, it has lost value. You cannot turn around and sell to someone for the same amount. We all know that, but I think sometimes we forget that. And we think, I bought this dress and I paid whatever. I paid $100 for this dress. And so I should probably get $50 for it. Well, not necessarily. You paid $100 for it 10 years ago. It's probably not worth $50 today. It's really, really going to depend. It's going to depend on what's in demand. Do you have access to the buyers? What condition is it in? And how much time are you willing to spend here? So the way it works out for me, and the way that I want to encourage you to look at it, is how much do you think you can get for an item? And how much time do you think it's going to take from beginning to end for you to sell it? Now let's talk about that second part first. How much time is it going to take for you to sell it? I think so often we underestimate the amount of time, like significantly. If you've never sold anything and you think, I can probably sell this, I can list it, I can talk to any buyers, and then I can meet up with them and sell it. If you think, okay, that's going to take 3 hours, we just have to guess. because we don't know at the beginning. But let's say you think, okay, I think I can do this in 3 hours. And that includes like figuring out how to set up your profile, wherever you're going to sell, and all of that. 3 hours. I encourage you to at least double your estimate, because I don't know about you, but I am frequently very optimistic in what I can get done in what amount of time. So if I think 3 hours, it's probably going to be 6. If I think 1 hour, it's probably going to be 2 or maybe even 3. If I think I can do this in 10 hours, maybe you have a whole bunch of stuff to sell. I want you to double that. 20 hours. This is so that we're making decisions here. We don't know if this is accurate or not until we try it out. We're going to work with some round numbers here. You think you can sell something in 5 hours. We're going to double that to 10. Let's say you think you can get $500 for this item. I did this once. I had a very large John Deere lawn tractor and I wanted to sell it. And I was like, this is valuable. This still works, kind of. Like there were some issues with it, but I thought, I bet you there's somebody out there who will buy this tractor off of me. And so I think I probably thought, yeah, it's probably going to take me about 5 hours to sell this, between talking to people and, maybe you meet up with one person and then they fall through. And so then you got to wait for the next one, all of that. So 10 hours is my estimate. And I thought I'm probably going to maybe I can get $1,000 for this tractor. It was probably like $7,000 or $8,000 when it was new, which was many years ago. So I'm going to get $1,000. It's going to take me 10 hours to sell it. Now we can do some really simple math. $1,000 divided by 10 hours, that's $100 an hour. Am I willing to work for $100 an hour? If you ask me that question now, the answer is no, because obviously I have a business. We have lots of stuff going on. But at that point, the answer for me was yes. It's like, yeah, I will work for $100 an hour. Absolutely. That is something that I'm willing to do. I'm willing to talk to the buyers. I'm willing to weed through people and all of that. Again, we forget all of the things that go into selling. So I really want you to write this information down. Do the calculation when you are deciding if you want to sell something or not. Do that little bit of math. Maybe you realize and discover, I'm going to make $3.50 an hour if I sell these things, if all of my assumptions are correct. Well, now it's probably a pretty easy decision for you to make. You probably don't want to be working for $3.50. So that is an easier thing to let go of. However, maybe you realize, you know what? I think I could actually make $20 an hour or $50 an hour. Maybe it's a car. I could make $2,000 an hour by selling this car. Again, no right or wrong answers here, but we've got to do the math so that we can make a decision that is based on data. Your brain is going to be telling you, you should sell that, you should sell that, you should sell that, no matter what, even if it's pennies. But when you do the math, if I said to you, hey, I have a job, it pays $3.50 an hour, do you want it? You're probably going to go, yeah, no, I'm good. No, thank you. I would rather read a book or get an extra hour of sleep. It really, really makes it so much easier for us to make that decision. Some other things that you can keep in mind when you're trying to decide, should I sell this or not? What is the condition of your item? Is it in good condition? Do you think someone's going to want it? Now, we could probably find somebody to purchase everything. People are buying all kinds of like wild stuff. But it takes time and it takes some knowledge and it takes some skill. You may or may not have that skill. You may or may not want to develop that skill. So you really want to ask yourself, what condition is this in? And is there a market for this item? And if the answer is no, then that's the perfect opportunity to let this go. Sometimes it is very rewarding to get a few bucks off of some of your clutter. Sometimes it's not about the math, but it's like I put a lot of work into this and I do want to get a couple bucks out of it. And so in that case, you may decide, you know what, it is worth it for me. Like it's kind of a game. I'm enjoying it. And I do want to get just a couple dollars, even if my hourly wage is not that great. You may still decide that it is worth your while because you're like, I put work into it. I want to get something in return. You just want to be clear and be aware on what you are expecting to get. Sometimes the reverse is true. Let's say you have something that's very, very precious. Maybe it's like a handmade rocking chair. I know a lot of people will have like an heirloom rocking chair. I had one that I rocked my babies in, and it was like, that was the place that I sat for hours and hours and hours, right in the middle of the night. Very, very special rocking chair. And I'm telling you, that kind of thing is priceless to me. I would not have sold that kind of thing because there's no way I could put a price on that rocking chair. That rocking chair just meant hours and hours of time for me with my babies. So I would never put a price on that. And that was something that I did give away, and I gave it away with so much love. And that felt so much better for me because again, I wasn't trying to get some money out of a priceless experience. And so sometimes you may discover, you may actually feel so much better giving something away if it's especially meaningful, because then you're not reducing it to a transaction. It's more like a gift. If you get money for it, it's like a transaction, and you might be unhappy with the money that you get for it. Whereas if you give it away, it's freely given and you haven't equated your memories with a dollar amount. Like, how can you put a dollar amount on hours spent rocking children and babies? You can't. And so I do love the idea of giving or donating items that are special to us because it doesn't kind of cheapen those memories. And we're not forced to say, oh, nobody really wanted it. People were only willing to pay this much for it. That can really be very painful and make it actually even harder to let go. So do consider at times that you may feel better by letting something go and donating it or giving it away instead of trying to get some money for it. So what are some examples of things that can be sold? Honestly, you can sell probably anything if you put your mind to it. And if you want to, you can sell anything. People are selling all kinds of stuff. What are some really good candidates? I like to look for things that are high value. So it's things like cars and tractors, things that are still in really great condition. Maybe if you have a lot of clothing and you want to sell it, and you can put it together in a bundle or in a lot, and you're going to get $100 or $200 or $500 for it. That is so much easier to sell than doing things ones and twos at a time, because every time you have an individual item, it's going to take that much more time to list and to sell and then to meet the buyers. So higher value items or larger quantities obviously are going to be worth your time so much more than selling things in ones and twos. Other items that you may consider selling is things that are in high demand. And you're going to need to do a little bit of research for this. Just because something was in high demand last year or 5 years ago or 25 years ago doesn't mean that it's still in demand today. So you're going to need to do some research. You can do this in a number of ways. You can very simply go to eBay and see what are the items that have actually sold. There is a way on eBay to search for sold or completed auctions. And then you can see what things are actually selling for, which is not the same as the prices that people put on things. Because you can put an item up for auction or for sale on eBay or anywhere else, and you can just pick any dollar you want, but that doesn't mean it's going to sell at that level. So maybe you think, okay, I have a Beanie Baby collection. That was a whole thing back in the day. Oh, Beanie Babies. But the Beanie Babies that still do sell, and it's a fraction of what it used to be, they're going to be in perfect condition. They're probably going to be in the box, and it's probably going to be some kind of a special limited edition. So you need to make sure that whatever you have matches the research that you are doing. Because if it's a little bit off, it's not going to have the same value. Now, let's take a minute to talk about garage sales. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to have a garage sale and I'm going to make lots of money. And again, this may happen. There are people who do. They do very, very well off of garage sales. But they've got a lot of practice. They've got stuff that's in high demand and they're willing to put in the time. You want to put that investment into that work before you go and tell yourself, okay, we're going to make lots of money running a garage sale. The other caution that I want to point out for you, if you're considering doing a garage sale, make sure that you're not just collecting things indefinitely for the garage sale. I know this is very common. We're going to set this aside for the garage sale, but then the garage sale never comes. You just don't get around to it. And the stuff is just sitting there for months and months and months and maybe even years. I don't want that to happen to you. So if you are setting stuff aside for a garage sale, make sure you know when you're planning to do it. And then make sure that you make it happen. You set yourself a deadline. Now, let's say you set yourself a deadline and that deadline comes and goes. I want you to promise yourself that you're going to donate those items if you don't get around to doing the garage sale. Set a deadline and stick to it. This is how we get things done. This is how we accomplish less stuff and more life, because we can't just focus on the less stuff. Less stuff is selling things, decluttering, cleaning up. That's that side of the equation, the less stuff side. But we can't just have less stuff without more life. And so we have to pay attention to the more life. And more life means more time to do things and more freedom and less doing things that we're supposed to do instead of things that we want to do. So we want to make sure that you have both of those at play, and you can do this. Now, when you are meeting buyers, I want you to make sure that you are acting carefully and safely. There are all kinds of scams going on right now and ways that people are trying to take advantage of other people. So make sure that you are meeting in a safe place, that you're aware of how you want to be paid, that you're not like letting them send you a text message and then you give them a code. Those are things that hackers do to gain access to your phone. You want to be extra careful on these. I'm doing mostly sales like locally. I don't want to mess around with shipping things. So I'm requiring people to come to my house to pick things up, and they have to bring cash, and that's it. And that is the way that I deal with things. There's lots of opportunity, and you can do very well if you're accepting Venmo or one of the other money transfer kinds of things. You just want to make sure that you're aware of the safety precautions that you need to take, because if you're not, then you may very much regret your decision to sell things. So it is not without its complications. I do not want you to think that this is necessarily easy money, especially at the beginning. It is a wonderful way to get some extra cash, which may be very important right now, but you want to make sure that you do it safely. You want to make sure that it's worth your time, and you want to make sure that you are all in on this work. I don't want you to be doing this just because you think you have to, just because you think that is the way that you're supposed to do it. There are no rules here. You get to decide exactly how this works out for you. And maybe you try it out and then you realize, you know what? It's not for me. So I want you to be all in on your decisions. Give it a try, see what happens. And then maybe you decide, you know what? I'm only going to sell things in this kind of a situation, but not in this other kind of situation. There's lots of ways that this can play out. Selling things is something that a lot of people tell themselves they want to do. But in my experience, the way that it works out is really most people are not doing a lot of selling, and they would be much better off by just letting things go, getting them out of the house, and then interrupting and shortcutting the purchasing cycle. That is where we really have the opportunity to save way more money, is by cutting down on what we're spending, cutting down on the unnecessary shopping that's happening. And all of that happens when you start decluttering the Decluttering Club way. That's what I have for you this week. I will see you next week. And let me know how this goes. Now, tell me, do you like to sell things? What are the rules that you operate by? Do you have a threshold? Tell us about it in the comments. That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review. It would really help us to get the word out. And if you'd like to continue your decluttering journey with us, find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Decluttering Club, or on our website at thedeclutteringclub.com.